Welcome to Duality Check, the podcast where two brothers embark on a journey through the realms of scientific inquiry, the mysteries of the past, and the uncharted frontiers of spirituality. Join us as we explore the wonders of our world and beyond, all while embracing the roles of curious bystanders rather than experts. Together we'll unravel the tapestry of existence, blending the dichotomies of knowledge and wonder. Get ready to question, ponder, and delve into the dualities that shape our understanding of reality on Duality Check. I'm Drew.
And I'm Dean. And welcome to episode number 71.
Yes, sir.
So I think we've upgraded our setup just a little bit more today. And
we're going to keep upgrading more and more as we go.
Yeah. So I think the plan is to do a continuation of the Pope episode. Although, did you hear?
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll bring that up. Yeah, the first American Pope.
Yeah. I want to get through the document and see what it's like, because I've kind of skimmed it. Yeah. And like at the end, there's a bunch of like wrap-ups of like, well, what does this all mean? And like, what are we trying to tell you with this document? And right. So I want to get through that part of it and see how it lines up with the Pope we got.
Modern day. Yeah. That'll be interesting because, and he's like a Chicagoan.
Oh, is he?
He's from Chicago. He's born in Chicago, and he's like a.
Are you supposed to say Chicagoan?
Chicagoan. We got family in Chicago. We weren't born there or anything, but we've got family there.
We do.
That'll be
our
interesting.
Cousins can't say milk; she says mulk.
Mulk. They call everything pop, soda pop.
Yeah.
Not everything. They just call soda pop.
Yeah.
But, and then I got a few clips, and I don't know if you were going to play that other video you had in there, but.
I think we got a whole bunch of stuff, so let's hop to it then.
Yeah. We can start off with our buddy Greg.
Oh, yeah. Do you have that up?
I will pull it up.
I can probably pull it up faster than you since you have to switch screens. Sorry,
I've got it pulled up on my other. Unless my screen just goes dark on me. I turned it off. That's why.
It's all good. I got it here.
Okay.
All right. So he sends us two different messages. The first one, he says, "Wow, didn't think you'd make a whole episode about these prophecies in my wildest dreams. Well done and thank you." Well. You're welcome, and thank you, because we needed an easy topic for the week that we were just preparing all this video stuff, so thank you.
Appreciate you, Greg.
And not just one, we're going to do two. Well,
mostly two. Yeah.
1.5, because we got a lot of other stuff on this one, too. That fly is really following around.
Oh, I almost caught it.
Daniel, son. Ooh.
Wyatt's been trying to catch it.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, it's been funny.
You should give him chopsticks.
I know. He gets so mad when he sees, like, get out of here. Get out of here. You don't live here. It's so funny. Watching him chase it around.
So Greg says, "It's surprising to see you on screen in separate rooms. Funny enough, we are actually in the same room."
We are in the same room.
Hopefully, I mean, you probably still can't tell. Maybe... I guess it's the way our cameras are angled, because yours is coming at you from one way and mine's coming at me straight on.
Right.
And last week, mine was like on the desk looking up at me.
Right. Yeah, so, if we had them back to back, maybe where we're both looking at each other.
Then when we look at each other, it would look like we're kind of... But we're actually across the table from each other.
We are, yeah. We've got like a desk and a kitchen table where we're sitting across from each other.
Yeah, we hijack his kitchen table every week for this.
But now we got one single source of light, so maybe you'll be able to tell a little bit better.
Maybe. I don't know. Yours just looks like you're floating in a black nothingness, and I've got a background.
By design, because if I turned on the lights, you'd just see kids' toys and basketball hoops. And so, spare y'all.
I always thought you guys would meet together in one place, face to face. Another wow. Nice to see your project developing and evolving. Thank you. Can't wait for your Discord to properly interact with you. Drew, hop on in. YouTube/email is a bit tedious, you must admit. But hey, can't rush the good stuff, eh? Peace and love, Greg.
Exactly, Greg. Thank you for giving me an out there. It's going to be great.
I'll keep pestering for you, Greg, if you don't feel like it. He's the gamer. He has no excuse.
Yeah, no, I'll get it up and running. It's more, I mean, I've got it started. I just haven't like filled it with things because there's like a whole like I want to make sure I've got all the permissions and everything in place because you don't want anybody to just be able to pop in there at any time.
That's true.
And,
That's true.
Make sure we have different channels for us and then like other people and all that kind of stuff. So it's a work in progress.
And then once we have that going, maybe we can incorporate a bit of a live element and you can listen along live, Greg. That'd be cool.
That would be cool. Yeah. And chat with us as we go.
Mm-hmm.
Pop in there.
His second message here says, now I'd like to touch a bit on the main topic of your program. It's a similar comment I gave under the Polish version of it a while ago. What mostly strikes me is the constant whining and exerting pressure on how suffering is important in the Catholic faith. There's like nothing more important than to suffer. In all these prophecies, there's this ongoing topic of how the Catholic Church will suffer from persecution and torment, killing and whatnot. Can't stand this hypocrisy, man. The Church is probably the most oppressive regime that has ever existed in history. Countless lives, nations even, perished because of it. Imagine unimaginable wealth gathered by this church over the centuries through abuse and extortion of other countries and people. The audacity, the arrogance, and hypocrisy is just astonishing. And that brings a couple things to mind for me. Like, one of the things I am the most upset about, and I think it's just like one of the biggest tragedies of history, is the wiping of all the Mayan codices. They like the Spanish just arrived, and in the name of the church, they just burned it all, calling them heathens. You know,
it's all They called everything heretical, and like everything was just burned as if it was
worship.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. It's all human knowledge. It's human knowledge. It doesn't matter that they don't believe the same thing as you.
Yeah.
It's a shame. Yeah, no, I agree. I think that's just absolutely just unforgivable.
The other thing that comes to mind is one of the Terry Goodkind books. So I think we talked about this before, but so Terry Goodkind, he passed, I think recently after COVID. But he has this long, originally it was like a 12-book fantasy series, and then he added a bunch more books onto it at the end. But book 6 in the series, he sees the main protagonist like get absorbed and captured by the enemy and like taken over into their country to see their way of life and everything and to live under their system. And the person who captures him is trying to show him like that this is a better way of life. And it's like a weird mixture of like Catholicism and communism that he's like portraying this enemy culture as.
Interesting.
And anytime there's like artwork, it's always showing suffering and just like people in pain and contorted poses. There's like nothing, this is never like focused on the nobility and the beauty of life. Instead, it's all about the pain and torment and suffering and how you can avoid that.
Yeah.
And that just kind of gives me the vibes of what you're talking about here with the Catholic Church, Greg. And I feel that in general. And it seems pretty pessimistic, like way to read the lessons of the Bible and the lessons of Jesus to me.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems counterintuitive to what the lessons are meant to inspire in people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So continuing on, he says, they teach about love, humility, being poor, and sharing with the poor, forgiveness, but they are exactly the opposite. That's one of the reasons the Reformation started at some point in history. But even in all these prophecies, they seem to forget about their own book's teachings. They put so much pressure on suffering and need to sacrifice, but they commit a great sin of pride. According to the Bible, Jesus came and made his sacrifice exactly for this reason, so no one needed to make any other sacrifices anymore. Besides, whatever sacrifice, no matter how great, made by any human being is completely worthless in the eyes of God. Only Jesus was deemed worthy to make it, period. So, them thinking that they can achieve anything by suffering or making whatever sacrifices is just unbelievable pride.
That's a good point.
It does seem like sort of like an arrogance.
Yeah, it does.
All they're required to do is follow Jesus' teachings, forgive your enemies, love your neighbor, feed the poor, and all that. Instead, they tell you, you need to suffer. Freaking nonsense. Jesus didn't want anyone to suffer. He did it once for all, and that's it. Now you just need to follow him. Simple. But of course, by following Jesus' simple teachings, they wouldn't gather so much wealth and power, would they? Anyways, that's my sermon for today. Haha. Love, Greg.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Yeah.
Great sermon.
And yeah, I mean, that really resonates with me too. And like why our family left the church is, you know, our nephew was born when our sister was young and out of wedlock, and the church just judged us, and they never treated us the same. Even though my parents had been part of the church, they had run baptism classes, and my mom started like the after school daycare program there, and like we were like pillars of the community.
Yeah.
But one of the kids gets pregnant, and all of a sudden like our whole family is on the outs. Like, what the heck is that? And after all that judgment, and like, it just doesn't seem like the forgiveness and the love that they preach, right? To have the whole community come and just judge you.
Yeah, and to turn their backs on you, and to
in a time of need too,
forego everything that you had meant to them.
Yeah.
Or that they had meant to you. Like, it just seems so, and I was so young at the time that in hearing about it growing up, I was just like, that's just,
and especially because it was like
never sat right with me that that's something that
right,
that they would preach all these things as if they're going to be like, oh, okay, like you can do things, you can make mistakes, but as long as you repent and you forgive and you forgive yourself and you know make a change or whatever, like you can be seen as forgiven. But it didn't seem like that in practice, you know, in reality.
And it's just like right when an entire family like needs the support of a community to circle around them, that's exactly when the community starts judging and rejecting them. And on top of that, it turned out to be one of the most powerful moments in our entire family history that brought us all so much closer together and gave us our freaking amazing nephew.
Yep.
Who was featured on one of our episodes.
Yeah. So if you haven't seen that, we'll link it.
Yeah, I forget which one was he on. He was on the one we were talking about the dark side, right? With Alan Watts.
Yeah. Which was a good episode too. So check that out. We'll link it.
Anyway, thanks again, Greg. I appreciate you for 2 free episode preps.
Yeah, no kidding.
And you a lot. For your thoughts, and you're following us so closely here through our
YouTube,
figuring all this out.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're helping us with our email. You're giving us good feedback on our website, and you're commenting, and you're getting involved. So we really appreciate that.
All right. So shall we hop into our first video today? I hit a button. Drew, you brought this?
Yeah. So this was, I thought it was fascinating because I haven't listened to much Randall Carlson lately. But I found him just scrolling through, and he was talking about how to like reimagine or to think about the solar system in a different way, and how like vast the entire system is. But yeah, we can listen to it and see what this gives us here.
Let's check it out. Oh, let me reload that.
It is you're looking at. You can see here, this is like a sphere. This is the Oort cloud. It's generally spherical. Then you have the Kuiper disk as a flattened area that most likely just grades into the spherical cloud. And you can see with this graphic here, this is showing the area, the region of the inner planets. And that, of course, is the region within which we reside on planet Earth. Now, the thing is we have to now enlarge our thinking, because we generally think of, well, the solar system, oh yeah, it's the sun and 9 planets. We always think of the solar system as being, well, the 9 planets, but really we have to enlarge the scope of our thinking now to include the Kuiper disk and the Oort cloud, because they are an integral part of the whole system and how it works. Without those, we essentially, the whole thing wouldn't function at all. The point is that these are in a sort of a quasi-stable configuration, I would say. They're very, very sensitive to any kind of perturbation at all. Now, what's going to happen out there is those Oort cloud comets, that zone goes almost like halfway to the nearest stars, which is 3 to 4, 5 light years away. If it gets jostled, it might go one of two things. It might go further away from the sun and get captured into the orbit of another star, or it could start migrating towards the sun. Now, the Kuiper disk might be more influenced by the gravitational effects of the big 4 outer gaseous planets. What you're seeing here would be the first phase in the life cycle of a comet, which is they're out there essentially in deep freeze. But if something disturbs them and they start migrating in towards the solar system, then they enter another phase of their life cycle. They actually become active. And then as they come into the inner solar system or move towards the sun, they begin to wake up. What exactly it is you're looking at.
Yeah. So that's a good graphic right there, having that up.
Yeah.
Seeing the the Oort cloud.
Yeah, the Kuiper belt transitioning out and into the Oort cloud. So that's kind
of like a cross section here of it.
And then even beyond that is the heliosphere, which is like the entire area of influence of the solar wind.
Oh, yeah.
Because there's other energetic and energy regimes out there in the galaxy, but our sun is constantly pushing out all this energy from it, right? In every direction. And then at a certain distance, that balances out with the energy coming from outside. And so there's this sort of sphere. It kind of looks like you've seen those graphics of the Earth orbiting and the sort of like magnetic sphere of the Earth, and how like when the sun blasts it will like affect the tail coming off of it.
Yep.
That's sort of how the entire heliosphere
interacts with the universe. And
right, which is even outside the Oort cloud, is my understanding. And the Viking satellites are now, well, I guess not satellites, but they're now beyond that spacecraft.
Oh, wow.
They are beyond there. They are officially outside of the solar system. They are outside of the heliosphere.
Yeah, so basically what he's trying to tell us here, though, is like this spherical nature and like is actually all part of the system in which we live. Right. And so anything that's interacting with this outer edge of the galaxy.
So that as our system orbits the galaxy,
or the
other
solar
stars
system,
or other bodies
are interacting with this Oort cloud,
right?
Causing, where, like he was saying, sometimes for them to be pulled away towards towards the the gravity may pull parts of the Oort cloud away, but it also may interact in such a way to push it further in and to interact, and then it causes a chain reaction.
And it could be that our system also pulls objects from other systems equivalent of their Oort cloud,
and then pulling it into our Oort cloud, and then that's interacting
as
further
they come in,
down to the Kuiper disk,
which
is then going to be more have more interactions with our solar system. And so I think really what he's trying to say is like, it's not so crazy that we have this like cyclical nature of like these things interacting and coming in and out. Like that image is terrifying, knowing that there's that many objects that are not that far away from our solar system that could interact with our solar system and planet.
It also kind of looks a little alive. It kind of looks like Not exactly
structure
like
there,
like a
like-
an atom or like, you know, like
Macroscopically.
it's almost a holographic principle or something. It's really interesting.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, the distances between all those points is still vast.
Totally.
Like it looks much more, you know, much.
I'm sure
more
each of the
tight.
pixels that make up these objects are enhanced to show the objects versus like the size they actually are. Like if you were actually at this perspective, you wouldn't see any of this.
Yeah, you'd be seeing maybe one nearby or something.
If that, yeah.
If that, yeah. But it's still a fascinating idea, and like leads to giving more credence to the comet hypothesis and the asteroid
That's really interesting.
hypothesis.
Right, because once there's a disturbance, right, and something gets knocked in, as it falls in towards the sun, it's going to pick up
Interact with
a
the
new
planet.
rhythm in its interaction
Right.
with the outer planets and the inner planets and the sun.
and all the other objects that may have their own interactions and fields that
Right.
are pulling
So-
and pushing. And
It will probably take it a while to find its new
pathway, right?
its new homeostatic orbit,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
And in the meantime, it may do numerous orbits in interactions or collision courses, possible collision courses, as it attempts to find a new like
Homeostasis,
Right,
yeah, new
right.
balance, yeah. So yeah,
That's
I thought that was
really
fascinating.
interesting.
I need to start listening to more Randall Carlson.
I know, dude.
his talks are always so fascinating.
They are. He is.
He gets
amazing.
into the weeds with some of this stuff, which I like because it gives you more
How are we not
understanding.
following him? Is that his actual Insta?
Yeah, he's kind of gotten a reinvigorated like profile now, so he's like getting more technologically savvy. I think he's doing his own show now. He's not with
Yeah, well, he's got the square and the circle, which I actually haven't even stepped in.
yeah, I haven't
started.
watched that. But then I don't think he's doing the other podcast with.
The Cosmographia.
Yeah,
with
I don't
the
think
Brothers
he's doing
of
that
Serpent
anymore.
And the other guys.
He might be still like working with him, but I don't think the Brothers
Right.
of Serpent are doing that with him anymore. I think he's got a new producer or some other. Maybe he
Right.
got hooked up with Riverside or something. Now he's just recording on his own.
Yeah, no, it's great. More Randall. All
Yeah,
the Randall
please.
you can handle, he says at some point. Well, awesome.
Yeah.
What do you have here?
And then this is just something that popped up that I thought was fascinating. This is in Indian Wells, California. It's a Contact in the Desert Event
Indian
Horizon.
Wells?
It's probably down in Southern California, I'm imagining.
Indian Wells Lane. Oh, Indian Wells, California. Where the heck is Indian? I don't
It
even
might be
know
on a
that.
reservation or something. But it's a contact. What's the word I'm looking for?
Oh, it's a reservation.
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
down south, just south of
Past L.A.
pretty much on the border.
Well, it's not
No,
all the
not
way
the
down
border,
to San
no, yeah,
Diego,
you're right.
but near Joshua Tree.
Okay, yeah.
Cool. That's doable. When is this?
End of May, beginning of June. So it's like 5 days. 5 days.
Huh. Contactinthedesert.com.
Yeah, so it's like a UFO.
The Woodstock of ufology. Bruh. You know how to sell a guy.
All right.
Education into the science of UFOs and extraterrestrial life. Featuring keynote speaker Josh Gates.
Is he? Yeah, he's the guy from
Expedition
Expedition
Unknown.
Unknown. That's right.
We got Ross Coulthart, Dr. Diane Hennessy Powell.
Oh, wow.
Hell yeah. George Knapp.
Wait, isn't she the one from
The telepathy tapes. She is.
Oh, wow.
You want to go on a trip?
I mean, I would love to. What are the tickets?
I have
We can
much
do.
vacay time under the new ownership. I'll have to check it out.
I don't really have much either. Cause
maybe we could just like pick a weekend or something, like instead of doing the whole 5 days.
Pick like a couple days to do it.
Yeah, just like crash one night and maybe try and catch.
Stay with Chris.
Ooh, well, that's not that close.
No, it's not.
George Norrie's gonna be there.
Daniel Sheehan.
Jimmy Church. Avi
Linda
Loeb.
Moulton Howe.
Cool. Caroline Corey. I don't know her. Whitley Strieber. Thomas Jane. Anthony Peake.
Yeah, Chris Bledsoe will be there.
Sarah Breskman Cosme. Yep, there's Chris. Dude, talk about burying the lead, putting him that far down.
I know, right?
Tracy Garbett Dolan. Oh, is that Richard Dolan's wife?
Adam Curry.
Oh, the POG Artificial Intelligence Unity GP. No, that's not that interesting.
Paul Hynek, is that Alan? Yeah, it's Alan.
That's Alan. J. Allen Hynek's son. Yeah.
So we'd have to look at the days and figure out. Kelly Chase, that's the one who
yeah,
she did the podcast with Hal Puthoff and
right. She's also involved in one of these one of the big documentaries that's out recently.
Oh, one of the new ones. That's right.
Yeah. I forget which one. There's
a lot of names here, though.
Yeah, there's good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to do 5 days. That's...
Well, with this many speakers, you kind of have to, huh?
Yeah, you definitely got to. 5 full days of this stuff.
Wow.
At first, looking at that picture at the bottom, I thought that was Tulsi Gabbard for a second.
Here?
Philosophy,
parapsychology. We got some podcasters showing up.
Jesse Michaels.
Ooh. Last podcast on the left's going to be there. Cool. All right. I'm going to have to take a look at this. It might be too late to make this happen, but I'm going to
I don't know if the tickets are still on sale or not, but...
Yeah. All right. Well,
yeah, that popped up.
One.
I definitely want to bring that up to you.
So I brought this. This is... I'm not going to actually play any of this because I haven't finished it myself, but I just wanted to point this out because we've been talking about the scanning of the Khafre Pyramid.
Yeah.
So George Howard from Cosmic Tusk, the organizer of the Cosmic Summit, and Randall Carlson did this interview with Filippo Biondi and Armando May from the Khafre Pyramid Scan. And I'm just getting into it, so I'm not sure how substantive they were able to like dig into this, but this is super interesting, and this is on my list to finish here over the next couple days.
Yeah,
so I just wanted to share it.
Summit YouTube page, huh?
It is. Yep, it is.
Cool. Yeah, we'll link that for all y'all.
Yeah, George Howard's been doing a whole podcast series on this YouTube page,
cool.
So it's worth checking out. So yeah, I wanted to share that for all of y'all. Because again, we sort of talked about the like realistic expectations of it, but I've still yet to like get into like any of the core information from the sources, and that's what I'm looking forward to.
Yeah. To really understand.
And they're actually going to be at the Cosmic Summit, as we talked about last week.
That's right.
So
yeah, they're kind of going to be like the special guests, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, they're going to be on the speaker lineup.
Yeah. Right? But they're kind of like the ones that are like getting people excited and like.
Well, George Howard, yeah, he really scrambled like once this whole thing blew up to like make it so that they were involved in this. So.
When is the Cosmic Summit? Is in
that is we'll have to pull that back up. I think it's August or September.
End of summer, basically.
Yeah. Anyway, I think we're ready for our first break, and then we can get into the next thing. You gonna hit the button there? We'll be back.
Forever born. Hey. Check. They say time is irrelevant when you're dedicated to what you love. I'm anxious, so what's to come if I victim the pressures of dreaming of your love supreme. Sometimes I wonder if we can stay together like Al Green. How sweet it is, it was all a dream. Just a week ago, I do this for my younger brothers, just so they can see me blow. We're all one and the same. When you're in pain, I can feel it, bro. Anything is possible, you just gotta believe it. So spill my soul and speak it slow. I gotta let the people know, remain true to the blue skies while I'm here below the heavens. Leave a legacy like legends came before. Fulfill what I've been destined for. What I think for soul in record stores. Catch me playing Tekken 4 with my dogs, Reservoir. One man wrecking for us till I enter heaven's doors. Make sure that they remember me forevermore, but nevermore. Cause when I'm gone, my legacy lives on. I'm forever born. Forever born. Ha ha, forever born. Yeah. Cause when I'm gone, my legacy lives on. I'm forever born. They say no one ever really dies. Do you believe? Reminiscing about the times when it was just you and I. Funny how the time flies and it's only the beginning. No one ever really dies. Whether or not you believe it, the time is always now. I don't plan to waste a minute. They say time can heal anything eventually. So when I live past the song, will you remember me? I wonder, could you remember me? I guess for now, let's bring it back. Hey. Forever born. Forever born. When I'm gone, my legacy lives on. I'm forever born. Yeah.
Living through the words written and the lyrics I've been spitting. The treasure is hidden, but it shines inside the mind I've given. All of the knowledge I can impart in my lifetime. Imprisoned by unhealthy cells, but soul food will fight crime. You better recognize life is right behind your eyes. Thoughts form reality, so whatever you visualize, long enough and strong enough, eventually will manifest. I caught a vibe and let it swell up like an abscess. Mass stress kept a brother stuck on past tests. Looking back, I wanna relive the good and forget the rest of the people that trespassed. They left class a little too early to learn a lesson. The audacity to passively project aggression overnight like one direction. I'm a multi-dimensional entity, so my progression's hard to follow. All the hollow perpetrators gotta wallow inside of the inimical energy they tend to borrow. See, the legacy never dies. My enterprise built upon honor and honesty I personify. Why lie? I do not believe I will die. The natural path of my essence, infinite the why. It's sometimes harder to figure out than the how. The fear of the future, it must succumb to the now. Everything I thought it was dissolved in the presence of love. Heaven is inside of you, no need to look above.
Forever born. Ha ha, forever born. Yeah. Cause when I'm gone, my legacy lives on. I'm forever born. Forever born. Ha ha, forever born. Yeah. Cause when I'm gone, my legacy lives on. I'm forever born.
Welcome back, and apparently my camera is frozen. Hang on. Let me see if I can fix it.
You just need to wake up your phone.
Should automatically do it here. Or not. Did my phone die? Was it not actually charging?
No, it's been charging. It's just, I think it's just...
Come on, OBS.
Hello, I'm here. But yeah, we are back. Dean's going to be working on that. Let's see if
got my FaceTime camera here, but there it goes.
We go. Just needed to give it a kick in the butt.
Boom.
Cool.
I'm back. That was M.Born. The song is called Forever Born. It's featuring Rasar Amani, rest in peace, who was one of the dopest local rappers I've ever worked with when I had the studio.
Yeah, I used to love going. I went to a couple of his shows.
Dude.
He played with M.Born, I think, one time, right?
Yeah, he did.
They had a couple of shows together.
He was on one of the songs on our album, and then I recorded a little project, a little mini like 5 or 6 track EP with him at Uprock.
Yeah.
And dude, so good. I need to reach out to his mom and see if I can get permission to use the songs we recorded, because
that'd be cool.
That would be, dude. Some of the songs were really good.
He was like,
he's so like spiritually enlightened too.
Yeah, I didn't know he passed.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
A few years back, unfortunately. Really? Yeah, it's really sad. Really sad.
Yeah, no, I remember me and a few of my buddies, you know, we would follow you guys and all the stuff you guys did, but he was one of the local artists that we thought was like going to make it big time.
Yeah, no, and he was doing great. He was, he had formed a band in Vegas called The Leak, and they had a couple albums that were really, really cool. So like live band hip hop type stuff.
Nice.
So anyway, support the local artists. Check the links down below for a link to M.Born's album there. That's one of his mixtapes. I think you can only find it on Bandcamp, but you'll have the link in the description below to check it out if you want to own a copy. It's free, so why not? So let's head back here. I
brought. Show you.
Oh yeah,
we're drinking. Berryessa Brewing Company's Buddha's Hand IPA.
Yeah, so when I was at Nugget picking these up, apparently this is a fruit that they stock every once in a while. This Buddha's Hand.
Buddha's Hand. Oh, that's the fruit?
That's a fruit, and that's in this beer, I believe. Here, let me read the description here. It says, Buddha's Hand IPA. One of the oldest citrus fruits in the world, Buddha's Hand, is thought to bring happiness and good health in the new year. Annually brewed with locally sourced fruit, this IPA is our wish to you for a prosperous year.
Appreciate that, Buddha's Hand.
Yeah, Berryessa Brewing.
It is very good.
It's delicious.
7% alcohol.
It was only a 4-pack, and I'm almost through my second one here.
7%, and it's a 16-ounce can, so we're getting
right. Father approved.
Yeah, I think so. We got to get him on here,
dude.
Now that we got video podcasts, I think people would love him. People would love him.
I can take my phone here, and we can like move it onto a mount over there.
Yeah, we can just get us from the side of you.
Group photo.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
All right, so I also brought this from Red Panda Koala. This is
I need to start following him.
Yeah, he's awesome.
I think I am actually.
He actually got kicked off. Well, I think he got a strike on YouTube or something. He got banned for like a couple weeks, and then he came back. He's back. But he put together this little edited video. And it says 2027 alien invasion, apocalypse, statements from Lou Elizondo, Stephen Greer, Chris Bledsoe, Leslie Kane, Jeremy Corbell, John Ramirez, Ian Carroll, Diana Pasulka. Let's check it out.
Yeah.
Definitely. It better happen before that. I don't think we're going to be in any shape in a decade to be doing very much of anything. So I'm not hopeful for the future direction that we're moving in it.
And the future direction, climate-wise, AI-wise?
Climate-wise and geopolitical-wise. That's the thing I think is going to kind of come. I think things are going to be pretty difficult starting in a few years. And from what I've been told by sources.
You hear of something big coming down the pike. Have you heard of these claims? And if so, do you have any idea what it may be?
Yes, I've heard of them. Yes, I'm aware of them. And I'm not able to have that conversation.
Got it.
It's not my conversation to have, but I am aware of it.
2027 was mentioned at one time. I've heard other dates in the 30s. I don't know. I've got no idea. I have no leads that make me feel strongly that this is true. I think it's speculative.
reading a lot of stuff that says, full contact in 2027. And there's all these people that used to work for NASA or all these other organizations out there talking about how our history as a species is really simply a...
Some may feel in the government the mere fact of acknowledging this, if there is some sort of malintent, may push up artificially a clock that exists somewhere for these things to say, okay, the foolish humans are now, the cat's out of the bag, they know we're here, we need to go in now.
And so at a certain point, where do they have to do something to protect other places? Because there's a universal principle of self-defense. So far, we've just been cruising along, getting away with this foolish and childish behavior. But I can't give you a timeline on that, but I think that, I honestly, from what I've heard from very senior intelligence sources inside the so-called illegal operations, is that it's thought that it would not be able to go on beyond 2026.
Story that set the whole UAP community on fire about this disclosure that I think Jeremy Corbell was coming out and whistleblowing on, if I remember correctly, that they were saying that they're gonna blue beam, they're gonna trick us by saying that there's a mothership arriving, and
that lie is going to be that there is a craft slowly making its way to us here on Earth. And that is the lie they're going to want you to believe. That is the lie you will be told. You're going to be told that there is a craft on its way to Earth. That's the lie.
Where it's like, how do you know he's saying that he's exposing it, but how do you know if he's exposed? It's just like...
Yes, there was an official effort by some people in the government to actually look at this data, and there were some products produced. That's a fact. I won't go into more detail on that. But it wasn't 2027.
Okay.
And
no, tell them what Blue Beam is.
The allegation was that there is an alien mothership that is about 2 years away from Earth, and it's going to make landfall on Earth in 2027. And that is the government's psyop.
All right, let me pause this real quick. Yeah, we're only about halfway through this video. This is interesting, but it's got me wondering how much of this is like circular citations.
Right. One person citing the next, citing the next, citing the next, and everybody's like,
and it all comes back to someone like the Chris Bledsoes or whatever, right?
Right. Yeah, I keep hearing this number, I keep hearing this date, I keep hearing this story. Nobody's ever like citing exactly where they heard it, but it's like, oh yeah, like people are talking about it. Like I have many sources.
The only like
Jeremy
direct
Corbell
source I know is Chris Bledsoe.
Yeah, I mean Jeremy Corbell and all of his sensational stuff. He's pretty sensational in the way he reports on these things.
I think he can be pretty measured
in his own style.
He's got his own like kind of out there style, but also he's got a little of a prima donna complex.
That's what I mean. I think that's really what I was trying to
like. He wants attention on him.
He wants people to think to have his name in the forefront of their mind when it comes to this stuff. Which I get,
because like you need if you want like top tier whistleblowers whistleblowing to you, right?
Your name needs to be at the top of the list.
Right. Your name needs to be the one that people think of when they're like, if I'm going to come out, who am I going to talk to?
But really, I think the more effective, I don't want to go on a whole tangent on Jeremy Corbell because he, for whatever reason, I don't know what it is really, but the prima donna stuff, maybe like the whole like attention grabbing stuff is kind of like rubs me the wrong way in a way. Because I was like, a lot of these people are probably like, they might come to you because you have a big platform, but what he's doing is not like, if I was somebody with a lot of information, that's not somebody I would want to go to. Just because he's like,
I think he did a really good job with the Bob Lazar stuff and his Bob Lazar documentary.
I agree.
Bob Lazar, Area 51s and UFOs or whatever. I thought was really good.
I think since then it's gotten worse though. That's the problem.
Maybe.
That's my take on it.
I also didn't bring these in for show prep, but he probably because there's another part, but
there's multiple parts.
They have the Immaculate Constellation guy
I've
been
watched
dropping
the first
videos.
Two parts,
I've watched the first two. That's probably going to be our episode next week. I think
that's another reason though, right there. drop it all at one time, dude. That right there is telling me you want the clicks, you want the views, you want the money. You don't want just to tell the story.
Well, I feel like for the own guy, for his safety as a whistleblower, like the whole point of going public is to get it out,
exactly,
and get your name exposed and your face exposed, so that the internet will know.
Yeah.
If something weird, if some funny business happens with you.
But if we have to wait till part 10 to get any actual real information out of you, he could have already been killed after part 5.
That's interesting.
I mean, obviously they probably recorded all of it, but still, it's like, dude.
Yeah. All right, let's finish this up.
Plan.
I'm just concerned. That's all.
Yeah.
So I don't think 10 years in the future. I only think 3 or 4 years into the future.
Mm-hmm. It's too uncertain past that point.
I would say so.
On mission, I know that it actually occurred. They mentioned Holman. They mentioned an agreement of some kind, and that there is a 50 to 70 year periodicity when that sort of a meeting takes place again. So we're in that time zone right now.
And is this the alleged countdown clock that we've been hearing about?
Yes, that's the one Ramirez and I and everybody else has talked about. We still don't know who originated it. But yeah, we all kind of tend to have fallen onto that time frame.
A lot of what we take for granted now in life, I don't think is going to be, we're not going to have it. A lot of things we have now that makes our lives as wonderful as they are.
Like electricity?
I don't know. Just the access to all the things we have access to now that are dependent on the globalization, basically.
You will own nothing and be happy.
Which just aren't sustainable.
This is from King Milkfart, and they say, how do you feel about a supposed impending event that is coming? Do you feel anxious, happy, excited? How do you feel?
Well, first of all, great question. Almost a trick question. Very, very clever. Very, very well worded. There's been a lot of talk about something happening. I am aware through certain channels of that same discussion. It may not necessarily be the exact dates that people are thinking right now. And quite frankly, we're not really quite sure what to think of it. Right now, there's a lot of innuendos and rumors going around. There is some discussion behind closed doors about maybe something occurring.
Exact alignment will happen in 2026 at Easter.
What will happen?
The star will, the alignment she told me about, that the star of Regulus would be on the horizon in front of the Sphinx. At that moment, there'd be a new knowledge. Well, I had no idea if this was even possible, but these astronomers run it through the machines, and it comes out that star is going to come up on the horizon in Easter of 2026. And from that point forward, they started remote viewing.
And I would say I've heard 2027 in a kind of an official capacity I can't reveal. So I think I would say that people in the government are aware of something happening and that there's limited time, a few more years to prepare the people, and that's what's ramping up this acceleration from the previous 7 decades of not even acknowledging it to now we are acknowledging it at a faster and faster pace.
The biggest
through official channels that he can't reveal. That's interesting.
Through official capacity that he cannot reveal. And that seems to be like, that's kind of what Lou says. Like, I have knowledge, I've heard things, but I can't nail it down. I can't speak on it.
Yeah.
So like, still your point is valid with this like cyclical like looping of like, the
citations, yeah.
Who may be the originator of these things, and maybe it's somebody like what's that CIA guy, Richard something?
Oh, Richard Doty.
Richard Doty, going around spreading stuff to get people like all. But then you got like the Chris Bledsoes who are.
For those who don't know, Richard Doty is a famous counterintelligence agent who was specifically involved in going to meet with UFO experiencers and whistleblowers and stuff and getting them to like like messing with their heads. And I think one guy even like committed suicide on the other end of it.
Yeah.
And anyway.
Yeah, he's a counter intel guy who literally inserted himself into the UFO community in order to sow discourse
disagreement
and just get everybody on, throw all this information out there to get people all over the place and to like make it so
like a chaos agent.
Yeah, make it so hard for people to like keep their story straight and to like make cavities between certain groups within the UFO community. And so that kind of like, and that's what people are saying like Lou Elizondo is now. Like they're saying like with his doomsday kind of like they're here to like, this can't be good. Like this whole like narrative of them like prepping the battlefield and, you know, we need to be, but like still no like hard evidence, no names.
Yeah.
You know, really.
Right.
No documents that show that the government has been preparing for this for, you know, and, you know, other than the stories we're hearing from these people, like they're not telling us any other information other than their anecdotes of like having had the conversation with somebody.
Yeah. It's pretty fishy. It's just, it's the nature of this topic, right? Like the UFO topic, like it's very slippery.
Yeah.
And you get why people get hung up on the like nuts and bolts documentation aspect of it.
Yeah.
Because it's so slippery that if you don't have something like what you can perceive as solid ground to hold on to, you can just go down crazy rabbit holes and have no grip to pull your way back out, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
All right, let's finish this out.
All right.
Takeaway for folks to understand is that things are happening on a, it's not a disclosure, it's a scheduled dissemination. And so certain things have to be set up before other things can be revealed.
Can you elaborate on the 2027 date and just let people know what you were told about that or what's upcoming here for people?
2026 date. It's amazing to see everybody. It's 2027 that year. Something's going to happen. Well, let me tell you, in 2013, I was given that date by the lady about a future time that a new knowledge would come and the world would shift into a time of peace afterward, but not without trouble. And that's what she told me, and along with a lot more, but I put it all in writing to a couple of generals at the Pentagon.
Anyways, I think the word got out within the government that they're showing up in 2027, and we better be prepared, and if not, there's going to be a lot of explaining to do.
That the year 2027 has emerged in various social media venues. I was asked about my knowledge of that year. I, John Ramirez, acknowledged that 2027 seemed to loom large within the channeler and spiritual consciousness communities. I suggested that they research what Anjali and Chris Bledsoe have stated.
And Chris was telling me about the apocalyptic visions that he was having. And I already knew by that time that this was something that absolutely happened to people who were experiencers. But I also told him this. I said, you know, Chris, people have been having these apocalyptic visions for over 2,000 years. And we're still here. I said, so it could possibly be that, you know, this might happen. I mean, who am I to say that it's not going to happen?
I've been pushed back by CIA for 3 things. And one of them was 2027. One of them was 2027.
Pushed back
on, like, as far as like them saying no or disagreeing or some
or
context with
slow your roll or something.
Yeah, maybe you just watch your mouth.
Right.
Kind of, you know, watch your mouth. Don't be talking about 2027. That's 2 years from now. Chill. 3 years from now, depending on when that video was put out. 3 or 4 years. Yeah. I mean, and like they mentioned how like we're rapidly getting to a point where like disclosure or something, and like we're like, which since 2017 when the New York Times article came out, we have kind of gotten, as a society, as a humanity, if it does feel like more people are like feel okay with just openly talking about UFOs.
Totally.
Even between friends of mine, right? Like, it's not like a cliche topic
Like
where
people
you
who
have
wouldn't
to
want
like,
to talk about it before.
Yeah, like people who would just like, or the way they would talk about it before was just ludicrous. Like it was just like a thought, just like something you'd say around a fire pit while you're smoking a doobie with some buddies, like knowing that the only reason you're talking about it is because you're smoking a doobie with buddies, and like that gives you an escape or a escape hatch of, oh, we're just spitballing. I'm like, whatever. Like if somebody like was like listening in to your conversation, like you have like a way to refute what you were even saying about it. Like, but now you can just openly say it with people and have conversation about, well, what do you think about this? Like, what are your honest opinions about UFOs? And do you think that they're real, or do you think that they're, like what? And like get into some of these stories, like in a lot of these stories.
Well, I think polling
maybe
is
some of it is
showing
because
now
of the digital
also
age
that, like,
that we're in, right?
Right. I think polling is also showing now that like UFOs are believed in by more people than in ever at any point in the past.
Yeah, absolutely. But
it makes sense.
But the amount of like fake stuff has also gone significantly higher.
Yeah. Well, I think the amount and the quality
of the fakes
of UFO material, like contactees, experiencers, government, whistleblowers, documents, like the quality and the amount of the stuff is at such a point that like if you do your at least a little bit of due diligence, and I don't even want to claim I've done all mine, right, but like I feel like it's easy to pass the threshold of believing that they're real, but then what do you do from there? Right, like where do you go from there? Like how, like once you think they're real and that we're not alone and that there's something here visiting us,
like, it's not like you can go and like
the possibilities
in like a UFO college, or maybe you can. I don't know. Maybe there's a UFO college out there. I don't know. Maybe there's a career at the end of this rainbow, but you're right. Like even if you get to the point where you acknowledge that you believe it's real, what then?
Well, it just opens up this Pandora's box of all of these possibilities, right? Like there's so many ways it can go.
And that's where the problem in my mind,
and that's why it gets so slippery.
Yeah, that's where the slippery nature of it gets, because once you allow yourself to believe to a certain degree, everything becomes possible.
Right.
So then everything you're intaking becomes potentially real. And then you have to really check yourself on every single thing that you're intaking, because
you have this natural inclination to want to believe. And once you already believe that they exist, well, now like how much heart, like it becomes easier to then take that next belief step and then the next belief step.
Yeah.
And then you become more susceptible to like someone who portrays themselves as like a guru or a prophet in the space, right?
Yep.
And it becomes easy for you to just hook, line, and sinker believe everything from this one source.
Exactly.
And this is where like UFO cults come from.
Exactly.
This is where like some people like the Stephen Greers get these like crazy followings that like, no, I'm gonna tell you how it is. Like
what's his name?
I think everyone has something to contribute, but like I know enough to know that I don't know shit. You know? Like
well, you know enough to know that this could very well be real. At least in my mind, like I think that it very well could be real, and I really think that it has potential for being fully real to the degree that we've been explained to about these things. And like you said, I haven't done all the due diligence on all of these things, and I'm not fact checking every single person I listen to, but at the same time, I'm not taking every single word that they're saying as gospel.
Right.
So it's not like I feel pretty comfortable that I'm not in danger of falling into some UFO cult. But there are people who are, especially online now, where all it takes is a subscription.
Yeah.
The subscription model that we all live under now, where everything is a subscription, and you got people who are just popping up with, websites and YouTube channels and like putting everything behind a paywall and like.
That's why for me, my litmus test on people that I take seriously, like what I want to see from someone is that they take the subject seriously, that they're open-minded, that they don't necessarily have it all figured out, and they're open to being wrong.
Yeah.
And like they know that there's multiple possibilities, right? And that like what sets off red flags for me is someone who feels that they have it all figured out and it's their interpretation is the right one. That sets off red flags to me.
I for whatever reason my mind is spacing on his name, but the guy that we had talked about who had the debate and like really failed and then like went after his following because of what's his name?
Yeah.
Put you on the spot because I forgot too.
Yeah, I know what you mean. What's his name?
I'm gonna look it up.
Well, but yeah, because he was debating with a biblical scholar.
Mm-hmm.
Billy Carson.
Billy Carson. That's
Billy Carson.
Guys like him who may have some pieces of the puzzle, but he believes so adamantly that he is right.
Well, he wants the business.
Yeah.
He wants the business success of being like a prophet in these spaces, right?
Which is the red flag. It's kind of a red flag.
Yeah.
It's a pretty big red flag, in my opinion.
Well, but there's plenty of people who make like successful content creation businesses around the search for truth, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like
sure.
I feel the genuine. How do you turn that into like genuineness? Genuine. Phil,
the genuine.
How genuine that people like Jesse Michels is. Like I see him on his quest for truth, right? And while he has this like wildly successful YouTube channel, and he's probably making a ton of money in it, right? But you can tell that he's not being driven by the business.
Yeah. You could tell that
he's being driven by his curiosity.
The business of making the money off of the videos is not driving his curiosity.
Right.
His curiosity is at the forefront.
Right. That's what's monetizable into a business. And when it's the other way around, that's when you get like the Billy Carson types, where it's like, oh, I am becoming successful at being a personality and an expert in this space. And so in order to keep driving my business, I'm going to keep building my brand and my character, right? And now it's like the tail wagging the dog, and the business is driving
and you get to
your beliefs and your points and how you portray yourself.
That's the thing right there is like you get to a point like with Billy Carson where you've gotten this business so high, like you believe that because you're successful, you're right.
Because you're successful, you're right.
Not because what you're saying is right or what you're experiencing and what the community around you is saying, like, and like the information you're gathering and like like it's the business being successful is the reason you're right. That's where the red flag pops up because he's now and then he goes on a rant about it.
I've not in that debate, but in the part afterward where he was like demeaning people and stuff.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was pointing to.
He was also like dropping like because of how successful he is. I feel like
calling his fan base and like the viewers and the people who support him
like peons and stuff.
Like people who like because they're saying, dude, you lost that. Like, hey, like just admit it. You lost that. It's no big deal. Like if you just say, hey, yeah, like I had a bad night. Like I wasn't prepared to argue. I wasn't prepared for this. I'll do better as a person who's creating content and trying to put on, trying to like put my point of view out there in a good way so that you all can experience the thing you signed up for.
Right.
Instead of doing that, he called his viewers like, broke, ignorant people. It's like, come on, like what? Right. The only reason they're broke is because they're paying you, bro.
I mean, hopefully they're not paying him that much, but yeah.
No, I know. Individually, but like, come on.
All right, cool. Well, we're at an hour, so why don't we take our next break here? You want to trigger that there?
I got it.
This next song is by... I thought I had it here, but I don't want to switch the scenes. So I will...
We'll let you know on the way back in. How about that?
Exactly.
Take a break. We'll see you all in a bit.
Adios.
Set it down, think it's not enough. Don't give in, never gas you up. Never lose sight, never lose the luck. Keep it all in, never spew my guts. Let the fire burn, let it burn me up. Burn me up, burn me up. Take a step back, let me soak it in. If I fall off, let me go again. Keep the fire blaze with a lose a win, but never lose. Never listen to the doomsayers. Do no harm, prove 'em wrong, prove 'em wrong, prove 'em wrong.
Welcome back. That was Stevie Nader, and the song is called Grit.
Yes.
And we decided to attempt experimenting with different camera placement here. So
yeah. Let us know what you think.
guys should see this setup. It's hilarious. I've got my phone mounted to the back of my MacBook with a little like dangling mount. And then I've got Drew's webcam mounted on my camera.
And it's staring at me, and it looks pretty funny. And Dean's laptop, if he doesn't anchor it with his thumb.
Well, if I like knock it too much, like the screen will like knock back. So if our cameras go flying at some point, that's probably why.
If you're starting to look at the ceiling and the table that we're recording on, that's why.
But we think maybe this will help for like when we're talking to each other.
Yeah, you can see our facial expressions and whatnot.
Well, and it's like less disorienting. We're looking in the same angle kind of thing.
So Greg, now there'll be no.
Well, it's
confusion.
still not clear based on the video that we're in the same place.
Other than the lighting, which still is not.
And I don't dare move the cameras now, but I could like grab one and pull it off the side and like selfie our setup. Maybe we'll do that next week.
Yeah.
Anyway, welcome back. So let's hop into this next thing I brought. This is a tweet from Jesse Michels, who's retweeting a guy named Nick Trimmer. He says, I couldn't stop thinking about this, so I started to build a working database containing every single book ever mentioned on the American Alchemy podcast.
Oh, wow.
These books, documents, and research reports are a great place to start if you're trying to go down the rabbit hole. I'm open to suggestions for additional materials related to these topics that you think should be included. Would be cool to later incorporate more written research and video footage. Database linked below.
Sick.
So I'll check that. Wait, is that the link? That doesn't look like the link.
That's a different
Notion reading list. So I'll link this and his tweet, but check out all these. Oh, wait. I'm not even showing the browser. Here you go, guys.
Oh, there you go.
So many books. What's he got by Graham? Fingerprints of
Signed in the
seal. That's the one about the Ark of the Covenant.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and he's even got topic tags.
And then probably links there on the right.
Book summaries.
Yeah, he's got the video links for any of that. Source
for what
videos.
video it was brought up in. Cool. This is rad.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Dude, this goes on and on. Load more, load more.
Oh, he's got so many videos. Oh, is that it?
That's it, yeah.
Okay. Well, he's obviously working on it. Then he's got like topic tags so you can figure out which ones like fit what you're looking for.
Time loops.
Parapsychology and consciousness, and then UFO and propulsion, consciousness, parapsychology.
Check out this description on Time Loops by Eric Wargo. It says, argues precognition operates via information feedback from future to past, evidenced in dreams and deja vu.
I feel like I watched that episode.
Cool ass read.
I'm pretty sure I watched that episode.
Yeah.
Not with Eric Wargo specifically, but when they talked about that stuff and they mentioned it.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
So, super cool resource.
Yeah, we'll link that for y'all.
I'm going to be adding this to my whole reading list. I'm going to have to go through this and add anything in here I don't already have, which looks like a lot of it. Magic Eyes only. Dang.
Ryan Wood.
All right. Cool. Drew, you prepared this one?
Yeah, so these are a couple of clips that I prepared since we're on the topic of Jesse Michels from his interview with James Madden. And we referenced it in our last episode as well, being one of the things that we were listening to throughout the week. We didn't fully prepare anything on this topic, but I grabbed a couple of clips from him. And the first one is from his kind of understanding of like Plato's like idea of the perfect like the perfect state. So I wanted to play this first one because of that, and then the next one we'll listen to is more of like Plato's allegory of the cave, and like, you know, and it's got a few cool video animations and stuff to give people an idea.
No, it really does.
Yeah. So let's dive into this first one here.
All right, let's check it out.
With a myth about death. Okay, so it's bookended, as it were, with life and death. Okay, or with two stories about death. So for my money, if you ask me what's the Republic about, it's really about death. Okay, and the human condition in facing death. All right. Okay, so at that point, then, you know, what is justice? You know, gets raised, and now philosophy breaks out. Okay. And there's a really vehement debate between Socrates and Thrasymachus. Eventually, Thrasymachus has had enough and leaves. And then Adeimantus and Glaucon take up his position as like devil advocates, and they debate with Socrates what justice is. They decide that deciding what justice is for we as human individuals, right, is too difficult, so they switch it to a political story. Okay, so what would justice be in the city? All right. But always with the idea that, once again, like, we're trying to find out what would it be just as individuals, so we can then figure out whether or not we have anything to fear in death. It's always the background. So there's like 3 layers going on in the book. And maybe the most important one is the one that's mentioned the least. Okay.
That's interesting. I would say the libertarians kind of have a good answer to what is justice.
Sure. But I think that they're more metaphorical in his, because there's 3 layers, like they're saying.
Yeah.
And like the idea
right.
that like justice as like an individual is different than justice as a state, different as justice as a spiritual being.
Society. Yeah.
You know,
I think
and
spiritual justice definitely goes outside of libertarianism.
And if you take into account, like, and he'll get into this towards the end here, but of this clip at least, the idea that like, imagining what is justice if death is not the end.
Right.
Like, does that change anything?
Ooh, yeah. Like, do we have to go on to some sort of cosmic scale?
Like some sort of metaphysical like idea of justice.
Can the punishment or the karma or the comeuppance for a crime in a lifetime come later?
Right.
After that life is over?
Right.
Interesting.
Can there be whoa, sorry.
You all right, buddy?
Hiccups,
I haven't added cough buttons on our things yet.
Woo. But yeah, like the idea that like death not being the end and like,
oh no,
just in this life, like it could be you know, justice, the idea of justice personally is different, can be portrayed different. Oh my gosh. Not again.
So Drew is well known in our family to have when he goes in these hiccup spats, they can last so long and they can recur over and over and over again. So
they happened earlier today. Bark. And then they went away. I'm able to get rid of them fairly easily, but they come back.
You gotta stare into the ring light.
So yeah,
maybe this is cosmic justice for you.
Let's finish this off. Let's finish this clip off and maybe mute me for a minute.
I hope it doesn't annoy you guys too bad. But
sorry,
let's hop
guys.
back into this.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, because it's I feel like
Sorry about that. I just started talking
while we were muted.
Yeah, forgot to unmute.
Oh, good. That's my fault, really. Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting. We were already talking about loops earlier. So he's got this idea that you need actual, like, Plato's standard of a philosopher in order to run a just city.
Mm-hmm. Must be a product of a just city.
Right. You need these philosopher kings. This is where this philosopher king comes from.
Yeah.
But you also need a just city in order to produce a true philosopher.
Right.
So you have that weird circular conundrum.
Mm-hmm.
This is, again, I'm going to resort to libertarianism here. This is where libertarianism steps in and is like, well, how about you just don't give all the power to one person?
One person, right? Yeah. No, yeah, it's a great point. He in my next clip that I prepared was them talking about the allegory of the cave and the idea of like this philosopher who's breaking out of the cave, coming back, and is it something that they should do? But like the only reason that Plato says that they should is in the ideal idea of the state. If they came back to an ideal state to give the knowledge that they learned from outside the cave back to the people, then yes, it would make sense for them to come back with that knowledge. But we don't actually live, and it's not actually really possible to have this ideal state where, like that loop, it's like a non, like you can't get there. It's a non-starter in a sense. Like there is no perfect state in order to produce the perfect philosopher, and there is no philosopher.
Well, unless that's where like the elusis comes in and stuff, and it sort of breaks you out of this weird cyclical requirements by like injecting you straight into the divine. Right.
But then nothing else comes with it. In a sense.
Meaning though that like you can go and become a true philosopher in these other realms, so that when you come back, you could be this sort of philosopher king in a way.
But the state itself was not built by that philosopher, so it is not in an ideal state of functioning when that philosopher king comes back. So like the idea that the philosopher comes back to this ideal state in order to like give the knowledge back in like the ideal situation, it's like this like conundrum, you know?
Yeah.
But we can jump to the next clip, and he does a little bit better job of explaining it than I can.
All right, let's hop into this.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
And so just what is the cave at a baseline for the average person?
Sure. Okay, so at a certain point in the dialogue, the question of how we would educate a philosopher comes up. Okay. And basically, the cave is Plato's way of explaining what the education of the philosopher would be like. Okay. So I think that's important to see. Like that's
because I already listened
where it's proposed. Yeah. Okay. And in the analogy or allegory that he uses to make the point is he says, so we have a bunch of people, they're in a cave, they're chained so they can only look forward, and all they see are images dancing on the cave wall. Okay. And then at some point, and I think if that were the case, no one could possibly know the difference, right? There's no ability to separate yourself from this, right? So it would be what we would call today a consensus reality.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. And now Plato never explains this, but voila, somebody gets loose. Okay, it's interesting. We never get an explanation of how that initial liberation would happen. Okay.
That's an important point.
And that person is able to turn and look away. It's a very important thing that Plato emphasizes, is that person looks away from the wall and can see back and see that what's really going on is there's a wall behind them, and there's people behind it with puppets on sticks, and there's a fire casting light onto the wall, right? So what the people see on the wall is not entirely wrong, right? The shadows are right-ish, but they're not fully right. Okay. And so this newly liberated person sees that, right? And then goes through a process of maybe even literally clawing his way out of the cave. It's a difficult, arduous process, right? And what he's moving towards is towards a sort of light, right? Okay, so the fire initially that he saw, that was part of the put on, that's a kind of light. It's enlightenment. It's a sign of knowledge, right? But it's not full knowledge. And think of it for the Greeks, we can say something like this: all energy, all heat, all fire on the earth is ultimately derived from the sun, right? Okay, so he's looking for the source of that fire, right? And he crawls his way out of the cave and eventually, can get out, and it's very difficult. So he has to leave and come back a little bit. It's very difficult to get out of the cave and see in the light for the first time. And eventually he works his way up to glimpsing the sun, okay? Glimpsing what Plato elsewhere calls the good, right? But he can only glimpse it, right? And so then he returns to the cave, and of course, in returning to the cave, the light has changed again, and he stumbles around as if he's blind, so he looks like a fool, right? He presses people that there's more to the world, what you're seeing is an illusion, et cetera, and of course, famously, it ends badly for him, just as it ended for Socrates very badly. Yeah,
and there seems to be sort of push and pull, like this person is ascending out of the cave on their own sort of volition, but they're also being sort of dragged. Is that right?
Or because you think of it like throughout the book, it's clear for Plato, enlightenment doesn't just happen. You have to be taught. Right? Like you could make a case. The book is a philosophy of education, right? It's what should our ruling elite be like? Like, how should they be educated, right? And the one thing Plato would say is you cannot just let nature take its course this way, right? Like, people are not disposed to take themselves out of illusion, right? They're disposed to stay in illusion, right? So someone has to be pulling, right? Yeah.
So
which is the problem, I think, for the book. Yeah.
Is the implication?
Yeah. I think that's an important point. Like, throughout that, like the idea, like the philosopher in this allegory is going out and seeing this like partial truth, and then coming back and still being blinded by the fact that they were enlightened, and then coming back but looking like the fool, stumbling and babbling, and like everybody's laughing at them because they look like such a fool for having experienced what they've experienced, like somebody in modern times having some sort of enlightenment through psychedelics, maybe.
I was just gonna say, what does that remind you of? It's like my whole story, freaking on DMT, dude.
And to
not calling myself a philosopher king, guys. I'm not that conceited,
but like to the person that listens to that's only experienced their life in a certain way, and they have this illusion, quote unquote, of the world and of life and nature and all these things. You look like a fool for saying the things you are saying, and in the manner in which you're saying it. And
dude, there's so many like what feel to me like core truths, like just gnosis that I pulled from that realm that I can do my best to try and explain, but like it's all just such a shadow of the real thing,
right? Just like
language,
the philosopher.
Language cannot encapsulate it, and the best I can do is like project new shadows on the wall
to help understand, to tell the story
of what happened outside the cave. To tell a shadow
story of what happened outside the cave, so that people may glimpse some truths of what you're trying to tell. Yeah. Exactly. I mean, that's the allegory of the cave right there.
There's so many layers to it, though, too. Because like when you hear like Diana Pasulka talk about this allegory, she talks about and she focuses on, no one ever really analyzes the fact that like there are people projecting those things on the wall. Who the hell are those people?
Right.
Like someone is creating this illusion.
And are they enlightened, or are they what part of this metaphor are they?
Well, if they come from outside the cave and they're not bound to only look at it and they're the ones responsible for projecting, then presumably yes.
Presumably, but also
they've been to see the sun.
What if their chains are metaphor or are less physical chains, but they are not allowed to leave the cave either?
Right.
And their chains are to be the puppet masters for the projections.
Maybe they're taking shifts, and so like
they have a separate room inside the cave,
right? But they're still not allowed out.
Yeah,
and so like they within the cave are running the illusion of the cave. But
so they have the understanding of it being an illusion.
Well, because it's not for them. It's not that everything they see is a shadow on the wall.
Yeah.
They know the shadow on the wall is an illusion. They make the illusion, but
they get the source light of the fire that's projecting it, so they can see differently of what's going on within.
They are coerced into that, and may not necessarily. It's not necessary that they have access to the enlightenment.
Right. And what if just because you have access or you are the one being the puppet master of the shadows and you still have no access to the outside of the cave and all you can see is what's immediately around you. So you have some enlightenment based on that, but all you're ever seeing as a storyline is what's happening inside the cave for the others who are still stuck within the illusion of the shadows on the wall. You're still the only story and the only understanding you're seeing is that.
Right.
There's not another show happening for you.
Yeah, well, and if you walk over to the dudes strapped to the wall looking at the shadows, and all you can do is like stumble and like look like a fool trying to explain to them, like,
is it worth it?
Then of course, like maybe you're like, okay, well, what language should I speak to them? I will speak in the language of the shadows.
Right. The horrors overlap yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
The only interpretation that you can
just like the only way I can even attempt to communicate what happened with me in that realm is through human words, right? And through words filtered through this human brain, and it's so insufficient. We don't have the vocabulary. Like, even if I had an incredible vocabulary, like the vocabulary in humanity doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Like, these things are not crystallized into vocabulary. Like, they're so much more.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, never mind that my vocabulary is reduced from the whole, right? But it's a wonder.
He mentioned the fact that, or I don't know if he mentioned it in this. I don't know if I clipped that out or something, but the fact that like the philosopher coming back being seen as the fool. Oh yeah, no, he talked about it. Yeah. And then the fact that like you're just seen as, apocryphal, or what's the word I'm looking for?
I don't know.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, you're just seen as like, but there is if you allow that to happen over time, like that same person is allowed to leave multiple times and come back.
Yeah. The other part of the allegory I find intriguing is that he points out that like when he exits the cave, he sees the sun, but he can't really look at it.
Yeah. He has to and that's why they say they come back and then go back out and come back and in to adjust your eyes to it.
But that's what makes me I'm comparing that to my DMT analogy, right? And when I was floating there, talking to this crazy orb, communicating, becoming one, and I did my best to comprehend it, but
how much did you actually get?
Such a pale scratching of the surface of
and imagine having
what I actually experienced versus what I experienced versus what I actually is.
Yeah.
Right. What I can communicate versus what I experienced, and what I experienced versus what it actually is. There's two orders of magnitude of reduction, of compression.
Yep. Imagine experiencing that, knowing how to telepathically communicate with the entity, and then being able to telepathically communicate with the people you were trying to portray the information to.
Yeah.
Where there's zero lag or zero lost information.
Yeah. Well, and that was the experience while I was there, right? Like when I was there, I was just connected to it.
Yeah.
And I could just feel it. Like I could remember, you know?
Right.
But a remembrance is not the same. A remembrance in that space is not the same as a memory in this space.
Right. Yeah.
Right?
It's not. Yeah. I can imagine at least.
That's just such a cool allegory. You know, we should just freaking do a whole episode.
Oh, absolutely. We talked about this before.
Or a series reading The Republic.
We talked about this before. Yeah, we definitely should.
Yeah.
But I liked his James Madden in this whole episode with Jesse Michaels is great, and I think you all need to listen to it because James Madden is really good. He's a modern philosopher.
I added his book to my list.
He does a very good job of.
I think his book was called Unidentifying Flying Hyperobjects.
But we'll link this episode and we'll link the book right here for all y'all to check out. But it is worthwhile to check it out.
That was Paul Hill. Unidentified Flying Hyperobjects.
Yeah.
James D. Madden and Kelly Chase. That's a cool cover.
That is a cool cover. That looks like the freaking.
Yeah, let me show it to you guys.
That looks like the thing that Terrence Howard was talking about. That freaking hyper object that he was talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't it? The Tesser. What does he call it?
Wait, who? James
Terrence Howard.
Oh yeah. Check that out.
That looks a lot like what he was talking about.
So yeah, this is on my list for sure. And I'll link it for you guys. Anyway, we're ready for our next break. It's been an hour and a half already. So
damn. All right.
We're doing good. Are you set to page 3?
Uh-huh.
All right. Let's
take a quick
take
break.
our next break, and we'll see you guys in a bit.
All right.
That star that tells me to look away, certain in the confidence you convey. These things I'd forever hesitate to do if I didn't. Took me by surprise, opened my eyes to something beautiful. Love at first sight, I realized this is unusual. She's perfect every way, me and you, girl, we're just so suitable. I can only hold my feelings towards you as someone mutual. You brighten up my day the right way while I ride away. Give me the right of way, night and day. You still like the way she hit me like a tidal wave, hotter than the fireplace. I'm with you to the final day. Give me a pen, I'll sign a page. Reside a day for life or stay. I promise if you do the same. No playing games, let's do this thing. I'll even give you my name. I hope you come back to me one day like a boomerang. If you ever leave, you might as well shoot me in the brain. Lock and load, shoot away. I won't even look away. I won't ask you to stay. I know you gotta leave, so I'ma set you free. But if you ever come back to me, then I know it's meant to be. You're my sunshine. You always ask all it tells me to look. I gravitate, I can't escape, I can't pull away. And these things I forever hesitate. But only if you really knew my love for you, then maybe you would stay. You always ask all it tells me to look away. Certain in the confidence you convey. And these things I forever hesitate to do if I didn't have. You were born to shine, brighter than the stars. I'm scared to stare you on, so I admire from afar. And you keep my heart warm-blooded. Love it when you're shining down, 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 down. Where'd you go, where are you now? Cold nights, you disappear. I see you in the moonlight. Reflections of you crystal clear. I can still feel you here. I hear you whisper in my ear. I turn around, there's no one there. You burn me out like solar flares. I know you care, I know you do. But under you, there's nothing new. At times I don't know what to do. I tell you I'm in love with you. You tell me that you've seen it all before. We should take our time. Common sense tells me doesn't take a day to recognize. In summertime, the more you shine like gold mine for 49. San Franciscan gorgeous dime. You stole my heart and blew my mind. I look right up into the sky. I wonder if I cross your mind. You tell me turn and look away. I wish I could, but it's too late. You always ask all it tells me to look. I gravitate, I can't escape, I can't pull away. And these things I forever hesitate. But only if you really knew my love for you, then maybe you would stay. You always ask all it tells me to look away. Certain in the confidence you convey. And these things I forever hesitate to do if I didn't have. If I did. gold mine for 49. Golden eye, glowing like the glow. Please hold the line. Storyline underworld, we end up like the fairy tales. Happily ever after, maybe that's how the story ends. So tell them where we're going now. You tell me we should slow it down, but you never trust me. Claim I'm shady when you're not around. But you never trust me. Claim I'm shady when you're not around. But you never trust me. Claim I'm shady when you're not around.
I am composed of the formal and the material, and neither of them will perish into non-existence, as neither of them came into existence out of non-existence. Every part of me then will be reduced by change into some part of the universe, and that again will change into another part of the universe, and so on forever. And by consequence of such change, I too exist, and my mother who conceived me, and so on forever into the past. Nothing hinders us from saying so, even if the universe is administered according to definite periods of revolution. That is Marcus Aurelius, Meditations, chapter 5.
Huh. What was the beginning of that passage again? Sorry.
I am composed of the formal and the material, and neither of them will perish into non-existence, as neither of them have came into existence out of non-existence.
Dude, how is he so ahead of his time, man?
Yeah.
That's like, isn't that one of the laws of thermodynamics, that like energy is never created nor destroyed?
It only changes state.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, to have this realization back in his time.
Yeah.
Before science and all these things, all these discoveries.
Well, before our iteration of science, I would say.
Right. True. Yeah, before like the really, materialistic, understanding of matter and stuff. But yeah, like to have that thought, but like, maybe it was more of a knowing.
Yeah.
And not necessarily a thought came out of nowhere.
Shall we do our tarot card of the week?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So I set the attention, as always, as like a card that you and I and our audience would find the most meaningful and informative for the upcoming week. And so let's see what we get. We got the Page of Cups. Let me pull that up here on the browser. Oh, no.
Everything fell asleep.
I accidentally locked my computer. Yeah. You want to
do a little description of this? The Page of Cups. We showed you. Oh, my camera's over here now. So we got like what I would deem is like I don't know what this outfit is. I don't know if there's a formal way to describe it, but he's wearing tights and boots and has like a floral pattern top on with a belt.
Cups is the element of water.
And he's got a big old chalice in his hand, big old cup with a fish sticking out of it. And he's wearing a big like blue turban looking hat with a big like flowy flourish underneath that kind of goes over his shoulder, almost like a scarf.
Yeah.
And he's wearing like a floral pattern, and he's got the waves of the ocean behind him while standing on some sort of solid ground. And yeah, I think that marking is on everything. So that's looks like a serpent and staff kind of symbol.
I think it's
there.
the artist's signature. All right, what does the Page of Cups tarot card mean from tarot.com? Page of Cups.
There it goes.
Upright, meaning This card is traditionally entitled the Page, but in some modern decks appears as a princess. In this suit, this card represents a poetic, mystical, emotionally open young person, still tender and idealistic, given to flights of imaginative fantasy. This energy is exquisitely refined and fine-tuned. It may be that a sense of being grounded in reality has not yet entirely set in, such that he or she is easily tossed about by external forces and events. This person must work to achieve a stronger will, more calculating mind, and to balance and protect that wonderful sensitivity.
That like perfectly balances what we were talking about before.
Right?
Like we were talking about like the idea of like, you know, being easily misconstrued in this whole UFO topic and stuff.
Which ties to the allegory of the cave, which ties to that whole like circular citation and yeah. When the Page of Cups reversed, if you draw it reversed, the Page of Cups card suggests that those around this page or princess have been tolerant of his or her self-indulgent feelings. In reality, they don't owe you this service. If you impinge upon their good nature too much, you may be unpleasantly surprised by the results. Be sure you start making their desires and well-being a higher priority.
Okay.
If you put it in the advice position, the Page of Cups, in some decks, a princess, in this position, it advises you to study the best ways to be of service. Strive to discern what would give more pleasure, comfort, and emotional security. Then provide it. Understand that what is happening has little or nothing to do with you personally. The best you can do is offer support and listen closely. Make sure you understand what is needed and serve the situation with loyalty. Look at individuals around you as the embodiment of the divine and try to fulfill each one's needs. Be unconcerned with the outcome. Later you will understand why you needed to be in this position. If you draw it in a love position, this card is in this position portrays a devoted servant and student of the heart. The Page, in some decks, a princess has a trusting nature that doesn't doubt or question and generally doesn't research to verify assumptions. Imagination and faith are your guides. This character fills his mystical cup and drinks deep from the transforming waters of the higher mind. You would like to join him in that exploration of inner space. Don't let this distract you from the necessary responsibilities of day-to-day relationship survival, however. This energy sometimes allows itself to be swept away. In a slight trance, he may grant too much power and credibility to gurus, romantic partners, or leaders when it's really in his best interest to keep his own counsel. With a dreamy heart on his sleeve, utterly sincere and transparent in his motives, he assumes everyone else is a seeker too. Beware forgetting to look out for yourself lest you be played for a fool.
Yeah, I mean,
dude, I so relate to that.
That's perfectly.
He assumes everyone else is a seeker too.
Yeah.
The Page of Cups in a career position. In this position represents someone who you associate with at work, whose naivete and innocence, while beautiful, may be dangerous to themselves. Your task could be to help this person become awake to the full implications of the situation at hand without dashing hopes or demeaning idealism. Gentle handling is required. Help this person look beyond dreams to the reality of problems that require resolution. Instead of throwing cold water, help this person develop a more pragmatic approach. And in a yes or no, the Page of Cups is a card of openness. If you're looking for a simple yes or no guidance and receive the Page of Cups, the answer is yes. Think of yourself as a true beginner and welcome the opportunity to learn from others.
All right. Yeah, I mean, most of those descriptions are pretty well suited for what we were talking about today.
It's
and
super interesting.
Great advice.
And the freaking break song was Sunshine after we were just talking about the allegory of the cave and the freaking sun.
Enlightenment.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
I chose that out earlier today, just like prepping for the podcast. Yeah,
before you even got here.
That just happened.
And we didn't even really know. We thought we were going to be reading. We thought we were going to be reading the majority
the
of
Pope document,
the Catholic.
Well, and I didn't know what videos or segments you had prepared, so I had no way of putting that
these are
together ahead of time.
synchronicities.
Yeah,
no doubt about it.
That's crazy, dude.
Yeah,
crazy stuff. All right, let's move on here. This is Jesse Michels, a post on X, and he says here, craziest part. Oh, so he's this is Joe Rogan posting his How Puthoff interview.
Yeah.
And Jesse Michels is commenting on this, and so I thought this was interesting. I wanted to share it with you.
Okay.
He says, craziest part of the interview was when Hal got into his quantum potentials-based communications work and speculates that that's how thought itself is transmitted. If we assume remote viewing is real, a force like these potentials displayed in the Arnav-Bohm effect would need to be the carrier. Otherwise, we couldn't account for the lack of attenuation across space-time in remote viewing experience, i.e. the experiments were just as effective in submarines. We know traditional RF signals can induce thoughts via bone induction. Does anyone think vector or scalar potentials could be responsible for aspects of consciousness? And that could account for these non-local transmissions? How would this work? Right. So these vector and scalar potentials that he's talking about. So my understanding is very limited on this, but is that there's the electric and the magnetic waves. The electromagnetic, they're like perpendicular and attached, right?
Yeah.
And the theory is that there's this also like a vector and a scalar component to radiation that is different and doesn't necessarily get weaker with distance.
Oh, okay.
And so we know that conventional electromagnetism is not at play in psi phenomena for multiple reasons, not just the submarines, but how Puthoffs work, and they talk about these like isolation rooms they'll put people in, and Dean Radin's work.
Cages and stuff.
Dean Radin, he's got this big freaking giant box Faraday cage.
Yeah.
And they will do these psychic tests inside those, and everything still works. So,
so the fact that there is a potential for the electromagnetic, but the fact that he's saying these vector and scalar potentials may have a larger reaching effect than the electromagnetic signal itself.
Yeah, well, it may be that like electro and magnetic are two sides of the same coin, but there may be more to that too. Like that may be two parts of a 4-part thing.
Right. So they're like two cross sections of a cross, in a sense, or like a okay.
So like there was a big breakthrough in science back when we learned that electro and magnetism effects were connected.
Right.
I think that was all figured out by Maxwell with his equations, and those are the equations we use for like engineering all of our modern world.
Mm-hmm. All the electrical stuff we got going on,
and magnetic stuff, but if there's more elements that we haven't coupled together yet in equations with these vector and scalar potentials with waves of a different nature that are also somehow connected, but they don't necessarily attenuate with distance.
Yeah, there may be no fall off at distance, or maybe no fall off with any barriers.
Yeah, I mean, it's super interesting, and I think it needs to be investigated scientifically. And I don't know what the state of the art is on how much we even understand about what these types of waves are, if they're real, what they're responsible for, how they can be used and manipulated.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about what we know about this stuff. So it is possible, and I don't want to totally downplay and say that it's not, because it totally is. But I do want to point out that this is just like a new avenue in the materialist worldview trying to
Explain
reduce
things,
consciousness to a physical phenomena.
Right.
Which falls within the reductionist materialist paradigm.
Yeah.
And maybe we may find something there. I don't know. Right.
Well, I mean, we found plenty of like materialist reductionist viewpoints and ideas that coincide with non-physical.
Yeah, I think the tree we need to be barking up is the one that takes consciousness as fundamental below matter.
Yeah.
And then that is the explanation for why these things don't attenuate, is because they're traveling through the consciousness realm, not the physical realm.
Yeah, consciousness creates matter, not the other way around.
Right.
Yeah.
Because even if you have vector or scalar waves, like theoretically, like traveling through some sort of physical medium, there still should be like speed of light
barriers or something.
Yeah, limitations, and I wonder if they've controlled for those things too.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
But that's I mean, hey, we're all circling the target here.
Yeah.
I think it's a matter of time, and hopefully we find out something at some point.
I'm not going to play this whole video, but I just wanted to link it for you guys. This is Anton Petrov, evidence of a strange new object in the solar system that could be Planet 9. Because we're running out of space, running out of time, I don't want to play the whole thing. But I'll link it, and it's pretty interesting. So, yeah, check this out.
Okay.
And then, well, maybe we'll just play the introduction, because I think the next thing we can save for another show, and then we're just at the Vatican Papers, which we're pretty much done with. Well, no, we're only halfway through, but we don't have time to go into them at this point.
Yeah, we don't have time for this episode.
So let's play the intro to this video and just talk about it a little bit, and then
we'll finish up.
We'll finish out the episode there.
But the last video I made about Planet 9 was actually exactly 1 year ago. And that's because back in May of 2024, we've discussed one of the most recent studies that seems to have discovered even more hints for why Planet 9 might be real after all. This was new, strong evidence based on orbits of various trans-Neptunian objects that basically hinted that even though this planet isn't visible right now, it's still somewhere out there. And well, hello info person, this is Anton. Today we're going to discuss a relatively new study that was just released a year later that potentially discovers one of the possible candidates, and maybe even the best candidate, that was finally identified in a study using infrared data from older telescopes. And so let's discuss this recent discovery that could be groundbreaking if it's true, but also talk about some of the previous discoveries in the last few months. But first, super brief history of Planet 9 and why we think it exists. Here the story starts in 2016. Two astronomers from Caltech presented evidence that some of the distant objects orbiting past Neptune seemed to bunch together in a somewhat unusual way, suggesting something was pulling them and changing their orbit. And they were actually far enough from Neptune for this not to be Neptune, which basically became this hypothesis referred to as Planet 9. And over time, there's been a lot of different discoveries and a lot of different hints of its existence, including observations from other star systems that actually contained somewhat similar objects. Here's actually one example from HD 106906. And so if this planet was real, it could actually explain a lot of things about the solar system, including various tilted orbits of different objects that orbit past Neptune, while also explaining certain other orbits that make no sense otherwise. For example, objects orbiting in the opposite direction of everything else, that would be somewhat difficult to explain unless something affected them gravitationally. Likewise, if this planet was real, it would finally present us with a type of a planet that we're actually missing. Because here, the solar system, compared to a lot of other systems containing exoplanets, does not contain any mini-Neptunes, does not contain super-Earths, despite containing planets like Jupiter and Saturn, and mini-Neptunes and super-Earths are actually the most common planets in the entire galaxy. Yet somehow the solar system has none. But the proposed mass and size for Planet 9 would actually technically make it either a mini-Neptune or a super-Earth, thus making the solar system just another star system out there. And so in the last few months, there's been quite a few additional studies trying to discover this planet somewhere out there or trying to refine its potential orbit. For example.
All right. So, yeah. And then he goes into the actual study, the new one, where they essentially took, they were able to use data that has already been collected in previous studies of this, like decades apart, of the same position of the sky, and they noticed differences. And those differences led them to think there's a body there that could essentially be the Planet 9 moving.
It's like moving certain objects.
Right, because it's one of those orbits where it like comes in close and then it gets whipped super far out. Right. And when it's whipped out, it's moving ultra slow.
So it could be.
It's not till like it starts coming in and in and in, and it picks up speed that's falling towards the sun, right? But once it's out there, it's moving ultra slow.
So this could be that planet that we've heard and we've talked about, like that could be coming in to affect and could have affected the solar system in the past. And if it's out there moving really slow and eventually comes back, then it's this cyclical nature,
right?
That it's coming back and then affecting things so drastically, and things change within the solar system so drastically during that time,
right?
While it's coming in so close, and then it whips back out and it's gone
for
20,000 years
or
whatever, right. And then it comes back in and everything's changed again. So maybe orbits change and like trajectories change of like planets.
And the relative distance between it and the other planets as it whips in.
And maybe it's affecting things like the Kuiper disk and the Oort cloud.
Causing things to get perturbed from their orbits, knocking them in to become more active.
Pulling comets in and,
Or maybe that's just where the Anunnaki hop off and visit us every once
They're like, hey, we haven't been here in a while. What you guys been up to?
Yeah, what are y'all up to now? Where's our gold? Hook it up.
Last time we were here, we threw some seeds on the planet hoping somebody would grow. And look at y'all. Dang.
You got quantum physics now? Dang.
I didn't think you guys could see us. Dang. Like, we just thought you guys would be some like crazy monkeys or something on the planet. You didn't think you guys would be doing all this.
Yeah.
So fascinating.
You're not allowed to, by the way. So
boom,
another flood.
Yeah. Let's reset this again. We gotta rerun the experiment again. We gotta try this again. That's fascinating though, and it would be crazy to have that discovery.
Yeah.
And terrifying, because if it's coming in and it does all these things.
Well, it's still on the table. I mean, and remember the other video we showed from him a few months back where it was talking about the idea of another star system coming within range and knocking everything kind of into chaos.
Well, and that was kind of like, it was based on the idea that something is coming in and changing things and knocking everything off. So maybe.
But the theory of like another star system coming close into ours, like that could have been a one-time thing early on.
That may never ever happen.
That could explain things like reverse orbits and like the weird tilts and stuff.
Yeah, right. That might not ever happen again, but.
This is another alternate explanation,
which would be cyclical, and it would be coming back rapidly, not rapidly, in celestial time rapidly. But
I find it like pretty compelling his point that when you look at other, like now that we're able to do all this like discovery of planets on other stars, now we're finding objects like the Planet 9 that we're talking about being here around other star systems. In fact, they're so common.
Right.
And we're weird for not having something like that. So I find that super interesting.
Yeah. I'm going to have to watch the rest of that video.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're over our time here. Appreciate y'all hanging out with us today. We are going to continue to iterate on this video podcast.
Did you start the outro music?
I will now. We appreciate y'all hanging out with us. And if you guys want to, if you're just listening and you guys want to come see our faces and experience the video podcast with us, Check us out on YouTube or Rumble. We have all the video and everything up there. Otherwise, we'll have all of our links.
Yeah, any of the videos we're talking about here, any of the expos, any of the music we're sharing, all of that is linked in the description and is also available on our website, dualitycheck.net.
Yeah, everything you want to find will be on our website, dualitycheck.net. If you guys want to email us directly like Greg does, or if you guys want to comment or get involved in the conversation, email us at host@dualitycheck.net or comment, like, subscribe on YouTube and Rumble or any of these podcasts. You can
also on social media, really
us.
like help us spread the word to your friends, which would super help us.
Yeah.
Any little bit of word of mouth will help the podcast grow in the future.
Yep.
And we're trying to make this thing more professional and like take it up a step and make it more valuable to you guys. So I hope that's coming across. And if you have any suggestions on how we can do better at that, please let us know.
Please let us know. We post our videos usually on Tuesdays, and we'll give you a heads up on Facebook or Instagram if you guys want to follow us there. That'd be appreciated. Like, subscribe, comment, get involved. All of those things help us grow and provide more resources for us to continue making the podcast better and better each week. So with that said, we'll see you all next week.
See you guys next week. Say bye to the camera. You're looking the wrong direction.
Oh, I'm used to it being here. See y'all later. Peace out.